Hi, my name is Michael Reynolds. I'm the editor-in-chief of Europa Editions. For years at Europa, we were known as the publisher of The Elegance of the Hedgehog, and rightly so. The Elegance of the Hedgehog sold over 1 million copies. It spent a year on the New York Times bestseller list, and most importantly, it enriched the lives of so many readers. And now Muriel Barbery is back with a book that strikes the same emotional chord as The Elegance of the Hedgehog. A Single Rose tells the story of Rose, a 40-something-year-old woman who travels to Kyoto in Japan for the reading of the will of her estranged father. And while she's there, she discovers a possible path toward reconciliation with this man that she never really knew. I think it's a book not only for those million readers of The Elegance of the Hedgehog, but also for readers who enjoy novels by Elizabeth Strout and Mieko Kawakami, Lily King, and Erin Hildebrand. And while I'm on the subject of Muriel Barbery, we have a second book coming this season that is the perfect gift book for writers, for cat lovers, and for fans of Muriel. The book itself tells the story of 4 cats who are fed up. They're fed up with not receiving credit for the contribution that they make to the creative work of their owner. They've elected a representative, and they are about to make their case to the writer. Now, this is a book not only about cats and the peculiarities of cats and the cohabitation of cats and humans, but also, and perhaps moreover, about the creative process, about art, about beauty, and about the craft of writing. It publishes on November 9 as a hardcover, paper overboard at $16.95, and I think it makes the perfect sophisticated holiday gift. The Dark Remains is a grisly, gritty, dark, atmospheric, and brilliantly plotted tale of political infighting, organized crime, hard men, and long-suffering women in Glasgow of the early 1970s. It's a prequel to the most famous trilogy in Scottish crime fiction, the Laidlaw trilogy by William McIlvanney. This book was started by McIlvanney himself, but never finished due to his untimely death. But McIlvanney's widow contacted mystery megastar Ian Rankin and asked him, invited him to finish his master's manuscript. For anyone who loves Michael Connolly, Lee Child, Val McDermott, Donna Leone, Denise Mina, and especially the great Ian Rankin, they're going to love The Dark Remains. Possibly my favorite book on the fall list at Europa is Trust by the National Book Award finalist Domenico Starnone, who for years has been considered Italy's finest living writer by Italians and whose star is now rising internationally. The story is set up compellingly in this book right at the very beginning. You hear about Pietro and Teresa and their tempestuous, passionate affair. Teresa suggests that in order to get beyond this swinging back and forth between love and hate, what they need to do is to confess their deepest, darkest secrets to one another. And instead of consolidating the relationship, the day after, they leave each other forever. Now, Pietro, he becomes a successful writer and a teacher and educator. He's a progressive, a liberal. He has all the right ideas. He's a feminist, I would say. But he lives his life haunted by this idea that one day Teresa will return to his life and reveal this secret to the world. This is a book that I think appeals to readers of Rachel Cusk, of Ian McEwan, perhaps even Ben Lerner. It's an exceptional work of fiction, beautifully crafted and stylish and compelling and timely. The Mirror Visitor Quartet, which began 4 years ago with A Winter's Promise, has been a fabulously successful fantasy series for us. The 4th and final installment in the series. It's not only the last book in the series, but I think it's actually the best. And I think that you can be confident that any reader you get hooked on this series will find it satisfying to the very end. And the world building in these books is absolutely seamless and elaborate and perfectly executed. The series itself tells the story of Ophelia, 16 when we meet her, and her fiancé Thorn. The two of them must work together despite at times disliking each other intensely to solve a great mystery that threatens to put an end to their world. The books in reviews have been compared favorably to Philip Pullman's His Dark Materials series, to the Harry Potter books, and to N.K. Jemison's epic fantasies. The Short History of Spaghetti and Tomato Sauce is, well, very much a book that is, as what its title suggests, it's a story of the most famous and the most exported Italian dish of all time. But it's more than that. It's also a cultural history. It's a book about national identity, about cultural identity, about how very often the things that we choose to define ourselves, very often those things are composite. They're made up of influences from many different cultures and different histories. And that is certainly true in the case of spaghetti and tomato sauce, the quintessential Italian dish. I feel really confident sort of comping this title to Michael Pollan's books on food, but also to the more recently published books like Milk by Mark Kurlansky and The Secret History of Food by Matt Siegel. It's publishing on November 16th, also as a hardcover paper over board. It is bright and entertaining and edifying, and I think it's another great gift book for foodies and for Italophiles or even for history buffs. I just wanted to mention 3 paperbacks publishing in the fall. First of which is The Lying Life of Adults by Elena Ferrante in paperback, in what I think is a beautiful paperback with a step-back cover. An instant New York Times bestseller. It reached #2 on the New York Times bestseller list. It was a best book of the year in the Washington Post, Oprah Magazine, Time, NPR, and we're expecting great things. Shadowplay is the second book that I wanted to mention by master storyteller and best-selling author Joseph O'Connor. This is a book for anyone who loves Kate Atkinson or Edward Carey. It's wonderfully readable, atmospheric, and based on a true story of these 3 extraordinary people. The third book that I wanted to mention coming out in paperback is Cathedral. It's a book for fans of Umberto Eco, The Name of the Rose, and Hilary Mantel, of course, the Wolf Hall series, Ken Follett, and Game of Thrones nerds. The one title that I really want to underline is Disorientation by Ian Williams. Now, I'm going to let Ian himself tell you a little bit about this book. I think it's a really extraordinary and unique book about race, about racism. Unique mostly because it does take a sort of global perspective on the questions of Blackness and race. And this is, I think, missing in many of the books that are coming out on this subject in the American market at the moment. I'm going to leave you with Ian Williams. I wish you a really wonderful fall and holiday season.
Hi, I'm Ian Williams, the author of Disorientation, out this fall with Europa Books. So racial conversations are very difficult to have. And a lot of the conversations out there, a lot of the books out there tend to be kind of polarizing. And I didn't want to do that. What was missing, I think, for me in the conversations that I was hearing in America was this sense of like global Blackness or Blackness beyond America. So this kind of Black diaspora is not just conceptual, it happens within families. And I'm not the only one like this. A lot of us have moved through continents, and everywhere we move, our bodies keep getting reinterpreted and spit back to us as these different things. We just kind of take on Blackness wherever we are in the world. And I think that story really needs to be told and heard, how malleable and how flexible and how adaptable Black people need to be to respond and to live and thrive in these kinds of contexts. The title chapter of the book concerns an incident with my niece where she's called the N-word in school. She's young at the time, and it disorients her, completely throws her. And she has to make sense of herself and her father, her Black father, her white mother, all anew, right, under these new conditions. And so that moment that we learn that we are not who we think we are, but there's a huge perception governing our reception, is incredibly sort of disorienting and profound. And so I go historically and look at that, but I also really talk personally about my own experience with that and my family's experience with learning about our Blackness.
I'm just popping back in very quickly to congratulate Damon Galgut, who, since I recorded this video, has been shortlisted for the Booker Prize, his third time as a shortlisted Booker Prize author. And we wish Damon lots of luck, and we hope you sell Gads of the Promise, which is a brilliant, brilliant novel.